Last year, one of my clubs found a new site for the final event of the season. A .526-mile oval track with banking and a crossover. It was a cold day, so I decided to run my 245/40/18 tires instead of my usual 315/30/18 rubber. Despite the cold temps and small tires, my raw time was 15th out of 70 drivers. I've been looking forward to running my 315s at this awesome venue for months. But when the forecast called for 45 to 50 degree temperatures during the event, I decided it was best to protect my 315s from the cold and run my 245s. I'm only up against one other car in Cam T, but that white 2001 Cobra was only .777 seconds behind me at the last event, way too close for comfort. I'm not just focused on winning a Cam T trophy. I want to improve my raw time relative to every other driver on course, and I need to get my confidence back after making lots of little driving mistakes the last time out with this club. Today's course is an incredible use of the site with a flowing mix of hidden straightaways, technical elements, and fast curves. In addition to the challenges the course presents, I'll also be chasing a changing limit of traction. Cold tires and a cold surface mean grip will be in short supply on my first run. It'll take a few runs to get heat in my tires, and they might never get hot enough to attack the course at 100%. It will be like driving a different car on every run. Finding speed will depend on knowing how hard I can push the car on each run, and getting everything I can out of whatever grip I have. And I won't know exactly how much grip I have until I get out on course. So my first run is a grip check and a reconnaissance mission. My tires are set at 29 psi to help build heat, and I've dialed my aggression way down. .396 plus 1. As I expected, grip was non-existent. My 245s felt like plastic. I did a decent job of keeping the car composed, but I was late on most of the cones in the first bank section, and my turns were sharp, not smooth. The lack of grip made me hesitant into and out of the Chicago box and through the crossover. Timid the second time through the Chicago box, and cautious in the short slalom leading into the noisy offset cones. I also couldn't push the car very hard in the banked section after the offset cones, or the short straightaway heading into the noisy wiggle prior to the finish. But it's clear that both of those areas will be really fast when I do have grip. It was a safe, slow run made worse by a +1. I won't be able to attack at 100% on my second run, but I can raise my aggression level to match the slightly increased amount of grip in my now warm-ish 245s. My plan is to extend my duration of acceleration by linking elements together. For example, the Chicago box is fast out, and the hidden straight into the crossover is even faster. I'm always looking for every opportunity to find speed in a straight line, especially on cold tires. Even if my tires aren't hot, I can exit the Chicago box faster and accelerate harder into the crossover. Another area where linking elements will allow me to substantially increase my duration of acceleration is from the exit of the offset cones to the finish line. There are gates and cones to navigate, followed by that noisy element after the banking that looks slow but is actually very fast. Running the correct line, making a smooth arc in the elements on the banking, and positioning myself to wiggle through that last element will allow me to find more speed into the finish, even if my tires aren't up to their optimal temperature. I've lowered my air pressure to 26 psi for run number 2. I've got a novice in the car and I'm narrating a little as I drive. Braking done, brakes aren't working. Definitely no noise. A little bit slow here to cut in. A little bit slow here to cut in. Open the throttle. Get my speed set, get around here, throw it around a little bit, unwind that wheel, move my way through here, brake, get around here. $69.895, 1.501 seconds faster, not including the penalty. I had a big brake lockup in the Chicago box. You could hear me telling the novice that I had no brakes. What I should have said was my brakes are starting to bite, but when I stab them, my tires are locking up. I did a better job of gauging the braking capability on the rest of the run. For the most part, my aggression progression plan worked. Even with the lockup, I was faster into and out of the Chicago box and a bit faster entering the crossover. The second time through, I was also faster into and out of the Chicago box. And I was earlier and faster in the short slalom and the noisy offset cones. I was faster and smoother in the last bank section and the wiggle into the finish. But locking up the brakes, having to get out of the gas early, and needing to feather the throttle in some areas were indications that my 245s needed much more heat to get to their happy place. My tires are now at about 70%, so I'm going to raise my aggression level and try to extend my duration of acceleration even more in the curved areas. With a little more grip, I can find a lot of speed in the crossover, the last bank section, and the fast wiggle into the finish. I've lowered my air pressure to 25 psi for my third run. $67.989, 1.906 seconds faster. I was faster just about everywhere. Because my tires were warmer, I could brake less, lift off the gas less in the slower sections, and be more aggressive on the throttle in the faster sections. I entered the Chicago box faster, slowed down less to set the car up for the turn in the crossover, and got on the throttle harder and longer, increasing my degree and duration of acceleration through that curved section. The video looks composed, but the truth is the car was on the verge of losing traction most of the time. That was what I like to call a pucker run. But I didn't spin or go sideways, which means I'm doing a good job of chasing a changing limit of traction. And I know I can find even more speed by being more aggressive in the crossover, the last banked section, and into the finish. With my 245s at 80%, I think I can get into the 66s. I'm keeping my air pressure at 25 psi for my fourth run. .139, 0.850 seconds faster. I made smoother arcs around the cones in the first bank section. I increased my duration of acceleration in the crossover and into the double gate that followed. I was more aggressive out of the Chicago box the second time. I was a little faster in the noisy offset cones. I was faster and smoother through the last bank section and into the finish. That run felt right at the limit of what the 245s could do in the cold weather before breaking loose. I persisted despite puckering even more than on my third run. I'm pushing these tires harder than I ever thought I could today, and they're holding on to the pavement. But I'm at a point where they're just barely holding on. I've got one run left, and I don't think my tires are going to get any better. But I still think I can run a 66. I've kept my air pressure at 25 psi for my final run. My plan is to try to find time in the last banked section and the fast wiggle into the finish. But as you'll hear, my tires weren't the biggest issue I had. .859 plus 1. I hit a cone in the first gate after the starting line. That got me angry enough to attack just a little harder. Unfortunately, the penalty cost me what would have been my fastest run. But did my aggression progression plan put me atop the podium in Cam T? First place, by 4.991 seconds. And my 67.139 raw time was 10th out of 78 drivers. At any autocross, you're trying to use all the grip you have and push the car to the limit of traction, but not past that limit. Coning away a 66 was crushing, but I was thrilled with my performance otherwise. Chopping off chunks of time on small tires on a cold day made me confident that I could devise and execute an effective run strategy, something I couldn't do at the first event of the season. That will pay dividends going forward. And I learned a lot about driving my 245s at the limit of traction that I'll be able to transfer to my 315s at the next event, which is good because I'm heading back to a site where I struggled last season. I'll post more results videos soon.